Clean, drinkable water. It is our most precious resource here in Central Oregon, but for dozens of property owners just outside of Prineville, a battle over tainted groundwater has been raging for years now. They say about the time a billion-dollar mining company began operations nearby, decades of crystal clear well water became unusable, and that the state and county have all but ignored their concerns about what might be responsible. So, for the last 3 years, their homes, property, and lives have changed as they desperately search for the source of their troubled waters.
We've got the canal over there.
Ashley McCormick got lucky.
I'm from the valley, and I love the greenery.
Her family of 5 found the perfect home, perfect views, great neighbors. Of course, you might expect that from a professional realtor.
I love the green.
Yeah.
And so that's why we bought it. There's so much of it. I was able to garden. I was able, I had room to do all the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah. The McCormick's property really is very reminiscent of the beautiful valley where Ashley grew up. It even has its own spring, allowing the family to raise goats and pigs and cattle and chickens. Even a large enough garden so that Ashley can supplement her grocery bill. Or should I say, that's what they had. You see, about 2 years ago, the water started smelling funny. It tasted funny and turned green and yellow. And then one day it sent their son to the emergency room. Ashley's young son was complaining in the middle of the night about his skin itching after taking a bath. The next day, she discovered the water coming out of the tub spout was green.
By that afternoon, was covered in head-to-toe hives. His eyes had swollen shut. He ended up having to go to the emergency room.
To say this was the final straw for the McCormicks would be negating the 2 previous years of battling to get the state to act with some urgency and find out what's causing the sudden contamination of their well water. Even further, to make sure it's not coming from the Knife River mining site less than a mile away. Well testing continues to show high levels of manganese, a naturally occurring element in the environment. In fact, trace amounts are in most everything we eat.
We used to think it was just sand, but it was the manganese.
However, the concentrations found in the McCormicks and dozens of other nearby wells is toxic for both manganese and aluminum. And this is why the folks around here are pointing fingers at the mining site. When Crook County approved the Knife River gravel pit mining operation, it did so on a piece of land where moving groundwater sits just a few feet below the surface. Getting to the sand and gravel resources here would require digging up to 20 feet below the surface, directly into that groundwater, in some cases through it, likely churning up elements that otherwise might have stayed in place. And then there's the rock washing operation, the process of cleaning contaminants from the mined gravel and sand. That now contaminated wash water is then piped into unlined retention ponds on the property. The idea here is whatever doesn't evaporate or get recycled back to the washers absorbs back into the ground and potentially into the groundwater.
We have this holistic understanding of the geology of Crook County.
The Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries is the agency charged with making sure that mining sites like this one are not damaging the environment around them. The acronym DGAMI is how most identify this state agency. Rory Day Starrett is DGAMI's director. His agency's investigation of the groundwater complaints came to a different conclusion, that the sudden change in water quality is the result of years of drought and the area's geology. If the mine operation went away tomorrow, it would have zero impact on the quality of the groundwater for the same folks that are complaining about this. Why?
You cannot separate rock from water. In chemistry, water is a solvent, and so given enough time and given the right conditions, rocks end up dissolving into water. That's the rock and the water cycle.
That has never been good enough for fifth-generation resident Dick Zimmerly. His family has gotten the same clear, clean water from their wells for decades.
The one thing that has changed in this period of time is the Knife River mining.
Dick still farms hundreds of acres of alfalfa here using irrigation water. He says the water coming from his wells can no longer be trusted. He wonders who the county trusted when it granted Knife River its conditional use permit.
So you had the expertise and the experts when the conditional use permit was applied for to make that determination, but now you don't. Where are those people? Where are those experts that you said you had when you authorized the conditional use?
Nearly 3 years into this, the county has begun to apply what pressure it can on the state, but County Commissioner Seth Crawford says there's only so much they can do when all of the experts say it's not the fault of the gravel mine.
What we need to do is get that third-party person in here to look at it that's not somebody that has any dog in the fight, that has the ability to give a strong answer to industry and our citizens.
The neighbors thought they had that person in Jim Newton, a certified geologist, engineer, and mining consultant specializing in groundwater movement. He mapped out the well test from some 30 properties that surround the Knife River site.
The concentration of manganese up gradient of the mine site is much less than the manganese concentrations below the mine site.
Newton says he can't get anyone at the state level to even look at his findings.
Why are folks that have the same license for me, that are supposed to follow the same state rules, that carry a public welfare responsibility, not willing to at least look at the data, or at least address the data?
The battle over what is tainting the water in Crook County has made its way to the halls of Congress and even gained a sympathetic ear of both U.S. senators here in Oregon. Still ahead, our story takes us on to the Knife River mining facility for a revealing look at the operation and those who are running it. We're back after this.